Hello everyone! This is part one of my series of videos that I want to make on how I moved my fish tanks from halfway across the US to the other half of the US. This was an incredibly chaotic experience and lots of things got delayed, things went wrong, but in the end most everything made it, as in I had pretty much a 99% survival rate with all my fish, which everything considered, yeah, I'll settle for that right now. So, the reason why I'm talking now instead of just getting into the whole process is that I filmed during the whole moving process. And those clips initially were pretty good, but overall it became very jumbled. There's lots of holes and gaps. Where, just the natural chaos of moving really inhibited my ability to record everything in a cohesive and in a way that makes sense. So I'm going to interject through some of these clips and just kind of lay out some things that happened, what worked, kind of what didn't. That way, as things play out, you kind of know what's going to happen, because I think that's the best way to make this make sense. Now, the move itself was ambitious in that my fish room isn't that big, but also isn't that small. So for the most part, I moved about a dozen tanks or so. Most are going to be about 10, 20 gallons, but I do have several, like my 75, I guess just one like my 75, that definitely proved some challenges. Fish-wise, it's mostly tetras, angelfish, bettas, nothing too extremely sensitive, so hopefully you'll kind of be able to take that in, so if you want to move your fish room, you'll be able to kind of compare and figure out what's the best to do with your fish. Obviously, if you have like really, really big fish, some of these methods may not be very applicable, but at least for the vast majority, I think this should be an enlightening experience. But anyway, I just kind of want to preface the videos off with that. Do keep in mind when you see this, the house we ended up moving into is not only my first house, but it's also, well, we didn't get to see it before we moved, so we went in blind. We weren't even really sure where the fish were going to go until we got here. Luckily, we got lucky and it all worked out pretty well, but just kind of keep that in mind. When I'm planning and I'm talking about this stuff, there is a lack of, well, I should have really known where the fish were going to go, and I couldn't, so I kind of had to guess in the best way possible. And this will all make more sense when we get into the actual clips. So sit back, enjoy the footage, and I'll see you guys at the end of the video. Alright, so this is the current thrown together fish room, and it's very messy, not very appealing state, and please don't judge me too hard, because all of it's going to get moved to a new residence, but that residence is on the other side of the country, and it's going to be about a 2-day drive. Everything has to get moved all at once, and I'm taking all the fish with me. This is absolutely insane. I've done research on guides, looking at forums. We'll showcase a pretty happy fish, right? Like, here's a very happy male betta. Look at him. He's gorgeous. He's there you go. Look at him. Isn't that nice? So the whole process, oh, there's a glare and you can see me. That was nasty. There we go. Let's try a different angle. Here we go. Here's one of my females. Look at you. Don't you look nice? Okay. So all the fish, including these bettas, are getting moved. And it's currently the end of October, going to be moving in early November. Okay, pause. So, do you remember at the beginning when I said that things are incredibly disjointed and most of it's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense? Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. The move didn't happen until the end of November, not the beginning of November. Now, I'm going to include all these clips because I think it really kind of showcases the natural chaos that is moving, and that, if you are dealing with live animals, especially fish, you need to make sure that you have plans in case things get delayed, plans change. Like if you put all your fish into buckets and you expect to move in like a week and then that doesn't happen, you could get totally hosed. So, just kind of keep that in mind. and it's going to get cold. Right now, nightly temperatures in the area moving to, it looks like it's in the 30s. So it's 30 degree Fahrenheit for, you know, any people in other countries watching. And so the problem is that there's no way I can do the drive in one day. Now, all the fish tentatively can fit in my car in buckets or other forms. I'm showing nothing. There we go. So, in theory, everything should fit in my car. The problem is when it's night and the car's not running, I have to keep everything warm. And I also have to make sure the fish are going to be in good water conditions. So, the other problem is, once I move, I won't be able to set up the fish room the same day I get there, which means whatever I put the fish in needs to be sufficient to keep the fish alive and, relatively speaking, thriving for a day or two longer than the move. So I really need to make sure the fish will be okay for about 3 to 4 days, is what I'm shooting for, and that might be incredibly unrealistic, but here we are. This whole thing is incredibly unrealistic. Okay, pause number 2. This was an incredibly unrealistic timeline. With the number of tanks and the number of fish I had, there is no way I could set up the fish room within a day or 2 after moving. It was just not possible. The fish sat in buckets at least a week after I had already gotten there. Now, I'm going to go into more of this later because it's more important and it's going to tie into other clips later, but if you're just watching this, I think it's really, really important to know that if you have multiple tanks, this is going to be a big, long process. If you have one tank, then fine. Yeah, you could probably set that up within a day or 2 after getting there, and you'll be just fine. But if you have multiple tanks, do just keep that in mind. It will take a lot longer than you anticipate. Okay, bye. We'll just zoom out to this tank here. Look at that. It looks nice. Look at this. I'm also dealing with sick bettas. He's got kind of sunken stomach. He's never looked super good. He's kind of a little bit lethargic when I got him, and he's just never really recovered. Got more treatment in there. And then this dude has like a red loss gene, which I guess is pretty rare, but you can see, look at his white head. It's kind of a terrifying shot, isn't it? Oh gosh. Yeah. So, oh shoot, where was I? So yeah, we're moving the fish. It's gonna get cold. I have to keep the fish alive in this system for a couple days, and I have to make sure they can be heated while they're in my car, which is getting down to around 30 degrees Fahrenheit, which is insane. And tentatively, my plan right now is to isolate the fish that I can into buckets, and the bettas, I guess these bettas and stuff are going to go in jars. So I have enough jars for all my adult bettas. And then, so the bettas will go in jars, and I'm going to use, hopefully I'll be able to use heat packs to heat the water through that night. It's just one night. I got to get through one night. I just have to keep them warm. It's going to be a very scary, very long night, but that's all I need, one night. So the bettas shouldn't be too bad. I mean, they can even handle a drop in temperature, but some things like this incredibly, oh dear, that is so much algae. I am so sorry. Look at that. So this is my breeding pair of angelfish here, which are actually behind the algae. You know, they're actually in here. Open the lid. No, there's just a big mat of algae floating at the top of the tank. My tanks aren't in good state. I've just been so crazy busy with everything. I have not been cleaning anything. So I have pairs of angels. There's nothing in these baskets, but there's a betta in here. I have some of my first angelfish fry. We got a tank of other angels over here that haven't paired off. Endlers that I'm going to sell. Betta fry, which just look adorable. Look at all of them just moving in this tank from their grow out trays. I'll have to go back and show that. Oh, come on, there you go. Look at them, they're so cute. So, anyway, so the fish are going to go into the car in buckets, and I think the plan is that
So, here we go. Bucket. This is just your average bucket. So the plan is, underneath the buckets, I'll put heat packs. So that night, when we get to the hotel or whatever, so pretend the floor right here is the floor of my car or whatever. So we'll have the bucket, we'll put a heat pack underneath, and then we'll put, I need to get more buckets. If you can get these kind of screw-on lids, which I really like. So the plan is I'll have, and there's a fitting that actually connects it to the bucket. So I'll have this sitting on here. I will have a hole, so I'll drill a hole through the lid, and then I'll run airline tubing through it. And so then inside the bucket, we'll have the fish. So the water will be, you know, whatever yay high, and then we'll put a sponge filter. So down here, this is, I have other betta fry. Look at my betta fry, look at you. These are some of my first ones too. Look at these guys, don't they look nice? They're so cute. And then we got sponge filter. So then what we'll do is take sponge filter, put sponge filter in each bucket. And so all these tanks here, right, are driven off sponge filters. Sponge filter, sponge filter, sponge filter, sponge filter, really big sponge filter. So each of the bucket will have a sponge filter. It'll be attached to an airline tubing that will go through the lid of the bucket. And then I'll use battery and USB powered air pumps to power air into all the buckets, which will be really nice. So one, I'll keep the tanks, or the buckets, sorry, in this case, these are buckets. I'll keep the buckets, the water in the buckets filtered because it'll have a sponge filter, meaning that ammonia that the fish produce while in transit will be able to be fully processed like normal, because these are huge sponge filters. You know, they're all very seasoned, and they should be able to filter the water almost no problem, which will be great. And then I'll have the tight fitting lid, so while we're driving, you know, if it sloshes or whatever, the water shouldn't spill over the side. We'll have the hole, air goes in, filters the water, heat pack heats the water when it's cold outside and when the car is off. Once we get to the place, we move everything in. Then I can just take the buckets inside the house. I can put in a heater, so I'll just drop a heater into the bucket, plug the heater into the wall, plug in a bigger air pump, and pump air and heat, and filter the water, so the fish will be alive, and they'll also get heat from the heater, and that should be enough to keep these fish alive for 3-4 days. Well, at least in theory, that should be enough, right? That is the assumption. So I have to get a whole load of buckets. I need like 4 or 5 buckets with these screw-on lids that I can do this with, because I have a lot of fish. These are not all the fish. I have a 75-gallon upstairs, which I'll show you. But yeah, so that is the tentative plan, right? So we take buckets, put holes, air, heat packs for heat in the car. Once we get to the final destination, I'll put a heater in, plug all the buckets in, essentially, and I'll just run those like tanks until I get the fish room set up. Because that's going to be like a whole process. Like, I got to design it, and I got to make sure I have enough racks, because like this 40 breeder is on a wooden table, and this wooden table is not coming with us. So like, I got to figure out where to put all these different tanks, all these different sizes. It's going to be a whole process, and I'm sure I'll have to move stuff around. It's going to be very tentative, but that is the current plan. So we'll just kind of see how it goes. This is a stupid plan. Don't try this. My gosh, this is insane. But I'm going to do it anyway, and that's what this is for. So anyone else can watch this, laugh at my insanity, and tell me how stupid I am. Alright, so we'll come back and update you guys when I got some more progress.
Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. Consider subscribing so you guys get the notifications when my next video comes out. That one's going to be all about the bettas getting sick and everything going wrong and getting delayed. It will be definitely one of the more exciting parts of the move, aside from the actual move. So just make sure you stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.